This is a voltage gauge, the little dashboard voltmeter that tells you at a glance whether your car's electrical system is healthy. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to wire a voltage gauge, from all 3 terminals to the last bare metal ground. Here is the finished wiring diagram. 3 wires. That is genuinely it. Switch power, a ground, and a backlight. Let's rewind and build it from scratch. First, what voltage gauge actually is, because people mix this up. A voltage gauge is a voltmeter. It does exactly one job. It reads the voltage of your electrical system and shows it on a needle. That is different from a voltage regulator. The regulator is the charging component that controls the alternator. This gauge controls nothing, it just reports. And unlike a temperature or a fuel gauge, a voltmeter needs no sender unit. It reads voltage directly, straight across the system. So it is really a health monitor for your battery and charging system. About 12.6 volts with the engine off, and 13.8 to 14.4 with the engine running and the alternator charging. So how is it wired? Almost every voltage gauge has just 3 terminals on the back. 1. Ignition. A switched positive 12 volts, so the gauge only reads with the key on. 2. Ground. The negative bolted to bare chassis metal. And 3. Illumination. The backlight wire that ties into your dash lighting, so the gauge glows at night. Power, ground, backlight. Learn those 3 and you have wired the gauge. Quick note. Every diagram in this video is drawn in a free editor that runs right in your browser, circuitdiagrammaker.app. No install, no sign up. Open it in a second tab and follow along. The link is below. Terminal 1, the ignition feed. This is the wire that powers the gauge, and where you get it matters. You want switched 12 volts, power that is only live when the key is on. The easiest place to tap it is the fuse box. Find a fuse that is dead when the key is off and hot when it is on, and pull your feed from there through a small inline fuse. Here is the trap. Do not wire the gauge to constant, always on 12 volts straight off the battery. If you do, the gauge and its backlight stay powered around the clock and slowly drain your battery flat. Switch power means the gauge sleeps when the car sleeps. Terminal 2, ground. The negative terminal just needs a clean path back to the battery's minus side, and the whole car body is that path. Run it to a solid, bare metal point. Scrape off any paint, rust, or grease first, and use a star washer so it bites in. A bad ground is the #1 cause of a gauge that reads low, jumps around, or sits dead. Clean metal, tight bolt, that is the whole job. Terminal 3, illumination. This is just the backlight, and it is the one wire that does not affect the reading at all. Leave it off and the gauge still works, you just cannot see it at night. Tie it into your dash lighting circuit, the same feed that lights your other gauges and dims with the dashboard dimmer. And if you're fitting several gauges, you can daisy chain this backlight wire from one gauge to the next, so they all light and dim together off a single source. Now watch what a healthy system looks like. Key on, engine off. The needle sits around 12.6 volts. That is a full, rested battery. Start the engine, and the alternator kicks in. The needle should climb and settle between 13.8 and 14.4. That rise is the whole point. It is live proof your charging system is actually working. Because the voltmeter reads straight across the system, with no sender in between, what you see is the real, instant voltage, the fastest gut check on your dashboard. 2 quick faults to know. If the gauge reads 0 or dead, the problem is almost always on the input side. No switch power reaching the ignition terminal, or a bad ground. Check the fuse, then check that ground bolt. And if the gauge reads battery voltage with the engine off, but never rises once you start up, it stays down around 12 and will not climb to 14, the gauge is fine. It is telling you the truth. Your charging system is not charging. That is an alternator or regulator fault, not a gauge fault. So that is how to wire a voltage gauge. 3 terminals. Switched ignition power, so it sleeps with the car, a clean bare metal ground, and a backlight tapped off your dash lights. It reads voltage directly, no sender, and it shows you battery and charging health at a glance. Open the free editor, drop in a voltage gauge, and wire it up yourself. The link is below. Subscribe for a new diagram explained every week, and I will see you in the next one.